Didn't we give it the 2 minutes?
Yeah. You came out in 75 seconds.
Okay, I'll give everybody another 40 seconds. Any more stragglers, Ann? Yeah. Okay. No, I meant that in the best possible way. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry, didn't hear that. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here. I apologize for the delay this afternoon. I have with me the President's chairman, the chairman of the President's Council of Economic Advisors, Alan Kruger, recently confirmed by the Senate. He is here to discuss with you the economic importance of the payroll tax cut, extending and expanding it into next year, as well as the importance it has had to our economy and to 160 million Americans this year. So what I would like to do is have him go at the top for you to address whatever questions you have on the policy issues to him. You may have some political questions which are more appropriately directed towards me. I will remain here to take them from you, and then I will let Alan go back to his important and difficult work, and then I will remain to take questions on other subjects. With that, I give you Alan Kruger.
Thanks, Jay. I thought I'd say a few words about how the economy is doing and the importance of extending and expanding the payroll tax cut. This is a critical time for the economy, and I think it's a time where the economy can use more medicine to strengthen and sustain the recovery. As you know, a year ago, the Congress passed and the President signed a 2 percentage point reduction in the payroll tax. That tax cut has provided important support for the economy, especially at a time when the economy was hit with some shocks, such as rising gasoline prices and supply-side shocks from the earthquake in Japan, problems in Europe. The President has proposed expanding the payroll tax cut to 3.1% on the employee side, as well as cutting payroll taxes for employers, focusing the payroll tax cut for employers on small businesses and businesses that are expanding. I think the economic argument for these proposals is quite compelling. I think across the spectrum of economists, you would find support for applying this type of medicine to the economy now. The economy has been recovering. We've had 9 quarters of growth, but the pace of growth has been moderate. We still have a great many underutilized resources. Unemployment rate is still 9%. We still have underutilized factories and resources. Fundamentally, the economy is facing weak aggregate demand. That economists speak for not enough spending in the economy. And I think you can trace the reasons for the weak demand directly to the problems that caused the economic crisis. Families borrowed too much in the run-up to the crisis. They're now paying down debts. We had a severe bubble in the housing market, and residential construction has been quite flat in the recovery, really unprecedented to have a recovery where residential construction has not been increasing. And then on top of that, state and local governments, which retained employees when they were getting support from the Recovery Act, have been laying off workers. So I think those are the reasons why the recovery has not been stronger. And at the same time, I think it's important to provide insurance for the economy against further shocks, possible shocks down the road. If the payroll tax is not extended, then the typical family with $50,000 in earnings would face a $1,000 tax increase starting in January. What the President has proposed is extending that tax cut and expanding it so the typical family would have about a $1,500 tax cut. And as I mentioned, other components in the Jobs Act, the employer side tax cuts, as well as extending unemployment benefits. So with that, I'm happy to take take some questions.
Ben Feller.
Thank you very much. Are you asserting that the extension of the cut would actually make the economy better, or are you just saying that allowing it to expire would make the economy worse?
I think both are true. The president proposed extending and expanding the tax cut, so the beneficial effect that we saw from the last round would be larger. I also think that the tax cuts on the employer side are particularly well designed. The CBO has concluded that the type of incremental payroll tax that the president has proposed has pretty high bang for the buck compared to other things that can be done to strengthen the economy. And if the tax cut expires, as I said, that'll be a $1,000 increase in taxes for the typical family, which would be a drag on economic growth going forward. And you could see economists from across the spectrum who have noted that this could pose a severe drag for growth going forward if it's allowed to expire.
But if it's extended at the same level, which is something that the Hill is talking about, 2%, that wouldn't actually do anything to increase demand, increase spending. What I mean, people are already getting that cut.
Well, compared to letting it expire, it certainly would support the economy.
In terms of unemployment insurance, the extension, if we could just do, because that's the other part the president seems to be talking about, if failure to extend that, would that have a similar effect on aggregate demand?
You know, if you look at CBO's list, I think they looked at 11 different policies that are currently being considered. Extending unemployment benefits, they concluded, had the biggest effect on the economy per dollar spent. And the unemployed tend to have a very high propensity to spend their benefits because they face bills and little income coming in, running down savings. So I think extending unemployment benefits as well would help to support the recovery going forward.
Matt.
Senate Majority Leader Reid has warned that the failure to extend the payroll tax cuts could push the U.S. economy into a recession. Some independent economists say the same. Do you agree or disagree with that?
I think what's clear is that extending the payroll tax cut will strengthen the recovery. Without it, it will be a drag on economic growth. The forecasts, if you look at private sector forecasts, are for fairly moderate growth, perhaps not strong enough to bring down unemployment without the extension of the payroll tax cut, which is why the president proposed extending it and expanding it.
Enough to cause a recession or not?
What I can say from looking at the evidence is that this is the medicine that we can use in the near term to help strengthen the recovery and to help to provide insurance against shocks that might be coming.
And you mentioned the problems in Europe, obviously the Eurozone debt problems. How much of a drag on the U.S. economy and on GDP growth do you expect for the rest of this year as well as for next year?
A number of economists have pointed out that the problems in the Eurozone are a potential threat to the U.S. economy and economies worldwide through both financial channels and through our exports. About 20% of our exports go to Europe. I think if one looks at the potential problems for economic growth coming from Europe, it even strengthens the argument for strengthening our own demand here at home. The payroll tax cut is, I think, an extremely sensible way of doing that. So looking around at the developments in the world, I think, help to strengthen the argument for the president's proposal.
Jake.
Given that the payroll tax goes to the Social Security Trust Fund, are you not concerned at all, A, that this will have an effect possibly on solvency of the Social Security Trust Fund, and also B, why do this every year? What you're calling for, what the president's calling for, the tax increase will just be delayed until January 2013. Why not just do a whole structural change so that we don't have to have this same conversation every year?
Well, on your first question, I don't think this jeopardizes the Social Security Trust Fund or the solvency of Social Security. The trust fund is made whole by general revenues. The Social Security chief actuary has stated that this does not affect the solvency of Social Security. Moreover, the president proposed a way to pay for the extension and expansion of the payroll tax cut as well as the other components of the American Jobs Act. So over the 10-year period, the budget would be held neutral with respect to these cuts. On the second question, looking at the pace of the recovery, looking at the threats that we face today, I think it's critical that we extend the payroll tax cut and expand it. Down the road, we expect that the economy will be stronger and that the natural process of recovery takes over.
January 2013, you expect?
Let me just say that the recovery has been more sluggish than one might expect coming out of a recession because of the nature of the problems that created the crisis, because consumers built up so much debt that they're working their way down because of problems in the housing market. We're seeing the economy heal. It's just not healing fast enough. So these measures would help to sustain the recovery, and down the road, such measures wouldn't be necessary.
Can I just do a quick follow-up? I'm sorry. It seems the language that many in the White House and the administration are using about whether or not the payroll tax cut extension would be paid for is shifting a little bit in terms of how important it is that the pay for is actually passed in combination with the extension. Would the president sign legislation that extended the payroll tax cut if it weren't paid for?
The president proposed a way to do this and a way to pay for it. The Senate Democrats came up with an alternative way to pay for it, which the president has said that he could support. I think both of those approaches are sensible approaches, and I think what we need to do is look for a way to extend the tax cut, which makes economic sense.
All right, and then Mara.
Curious, the Joint Tax Committee has said that about a third of small businesses would be taxed additionally if you have to pay for the tax, as the so-called millionaires tax. Wouldn't that be hurtful to the economy, that pay for, in terms of it hurt small businesses in that way by taxing them additionally to pay for this?
The tax on incomes above $1 million a year, I think, would hit very few small businesses. The vast majority, one figure I saw was 99% of individuals with small business income would not be affected by this. So the vast majority of employers would be unaffected by what was proposed to pay for the payroll tax extension.
Mara.
Mitch McConnell has said that you're proposing to put a permanent tax on millionaires in exchange for this temporary tax cut. What would be the effect of the surtax on millionaires, the economic effect?
Well, the way to analyze economic effect is to say, when does the tax cut take effect? When does the tax increase to pay for it take effect? Those are not at the same time. The tax cut would be immediate. It would be for virtually all working families, focused on families with moderate incomes. So then look at what's the marginal propensity to spend out of income for the different groups that are affected by the tax cut and the way that it's paid for. The families that would be affected by the tax cut tend to have a higher marginal propensity to spend, which would provide more support for the economy right away. Those in upper income groups with incomes above $1 million a year tend to have a lower marginal propensity to consume. So I think if you're thinking about how is this going to affect the economy in the short run and the long run, this is the right fiscal path for strengthening the economy now and ensuring that it's done in a fiscally responsible way.
And can you just clarify something? You said it would be a $1,000 tax increase if this isn't passed, but it would be a $1,500 tax cut if it is? How can that be?
The question is, what baseline do you use? So if you compare the status quo, if the payroll tax cut is not extended, that would mean starting in January an increase in payroll taxes for virtually all workers of 2%. For a family earning $1,000, earning $50,000, that equates to a $1,000 tax increase. What the president has proposed is extending and expanding the payroll tax cut, so the 3.1% compared to if it's allowed to expire.
Let's do Ed and Laura.
And just ask, President wants to extend unemployment benefits. You did a study a few months ago suggesting the longer people are out of work, the less time they end up spending looking for work. So how does that square with trying to give people more benefits and stay unemployed longer?
and I hope you've read the study.